Part 1. Every single girl between the ages of 18 and 32 knows me. No, not my name, but who I am. I'm the guy whose calls you don't answer, but who you call on a cold winter night when your car battery is dead at the mall and you need to recharge. I'm the guy you call to fix a leaky toilet on a Saturday afternoon before a party I wasn't invited to. I'm the guy you take to weddings and Christmas parties because I'm polite, make a good impression, and your moms and aunts like me. I'm the guy you say, call me Saturday, we'll see, to after asking me out because you're hoping something better will come along. I'm a good backup plan as I always pay and treat you well, but I won't pressure you. I am a friend who is not so bad that you lose your number, but not quite good enough to make an effort for a friend. I am invisible. Well, until you need me. I was that guy all through high school, an honors student, a stable middle-class person, raised to be polite and kind to others. I was never a member of sports teams, always worked after school because my parents made too much for government programs, but were too poor to own anything but Kmart jeans and budget eyeglass frames. I was the nice guy who opened doors for you and your girlfriends and let you get ahead of me in the lunch line. Acts you didn't even recognize. You know what they say about where good guys end up? Popular rumor says last, but that's not true. We good guys don't always finish last. We just never get noticed, and no one knows if we finished last or if we finished at all. Too rich for financial aid but not smart or athletic enough for a scholarship, I attended community college while working. At work, I steadily moved up the ladder, getting enough responsibility to get the job done, but not deservedly so, as promotions went to the more perky, visible guys. Like most of my invisible peers, I moved out at 18, bought a turnkey house, and spent most of my time studying warped floors, moldings, tile, and the like. Was my life lonely? I don't know, because it always had been. I got a dog from a local rescue center, an elderly Doberman with one ear that wouldn't stand up. A few months later, a local mutt from the street joined us. Everyone knows that no matter how little money and possessions you have, having a dog makes you rich. When a stray cat moved into my house, I thought I was definitely rich now. Then suddenly something very strange happened. After my 32nd birthday, girls started returning my calls. I was not only getting dates, but sleepovers as well. My social calendar went from strength to strength, and I had to write down and decline invitations. Was I happy? Does the Pope shit in the woods? Is the bear a Catholic? Yes, that's right. I was happy but confused. Next chapter. The reason for my newfound studliness was suggested to me by Joanna, a retired schoolteacher who worked at the store where I got my coffee every morning. Joanna was a big, rough smoking lady who didn't give a damn about anyone's opportunities. Joanna could chat up any of the customers, from construction workers to truck drivers, and she had a loyal following in the store. She worked mostly to keep busy after the death of her longtime partner. Eric, my boy, you are what is known as a clock stopper, Joanna told me. I was puzzled. I've heard that you can be so ugly that your face will stop the clock. Is that what you mean? Joanna exhaled a stream of smoke before continuing. No, I'm talking about the biological clocks of young ladies. Joanna took a second to puff on her cigarette and then continued. Most women know that after age 35, the biological window for having children becomes really dangerous. I interrupted. Joanna, that's not really true anymore. She waved her hand to clear the smoke and deflect my objections. Yes, Eric. True, the odds are better today than in my day, but after 35, the odds still don't stack up in your favor. And so these girls wake up one morning and they are no longer 22 years old, but 32. Carrying a baby lasts a year, so if they want one child, they need to be pregnant by age 34. Add to that courtship, finances, and most importantly, finding the right guy, and then they're already running out of time, and bam. You, my friend Eric, become the stallion that stops the clock. I shook my head. There are plenty of single guys out there, much better than me as donor husbands. Joanna laughed, letting out another trickle of smoke. Sure, lots and lots of loser donors, but not too many good husbands. Ladies don't want a mama's boy who lives in his parents' basement, or a man who will play video games but won't help change diapers. These ladies quickly assess the available talent and discover that most good candidates are already married. Joanna paused. Eric, you see, it is assumed that we now know the best age for marriage. If you tie the knot between the ages of 28 and 32, the risk of divorce is low, not too young and not too old. Goldilocks theory on marriage. The smarter girls got all the bad guys and losers out of their system and locked up all the good men like you early on. Now they have a house, a car, 2.5 kids, and a career. I laughed. So basically what you're saying is that at this point, after we've eliminated married men, I'm getting the least of what's left. Joanna grinned. When you're young, most of your life runs linearly. You graduate from high school, then college, then get a job. But real-life relationships don't develop as smoothly. So how do you plan for a marriage and a life partner that isn't as simple as contributing to a 401k or buying health insurance? Joanna flicked her ashes. Smart women know, if you want a relationship, do what you need to do. Dump the losers and look for good, stable guys. They quit nightclubs, get off the couch, and go to your cousin's friend's birthday party, because that's where you'll find real men, not boys. I shook my head. You can't plot out the path of your life in advance, like it's a chart waiting for you to fill in the dots, especially when those events depend on other people. Sure, you might decide to move somewhere by a certain age or save up a certain amount of money to buy a house or car a few months or years in advance, but that's it. Joanna rolled her eyes. You can decide in advance exactly when you're going to get married, have a child, or make a certain amount of money. Of course, there are other people or factors, potential partners, fertility fluctuations, employers, and the economy in general. I have no new research to back me up, but in my experience, not as a sociologist or economist, the old adage still holds true. Chance favors the prepared man, or as it's also called, the woman. She put the lighter away. Eric, you're on a deadline right now. I bet your first dates are asking about your 5-year plan, or how big a family you want. I stared at Joanna. How do you know? Joanna giggled. When her friends have babies or freeze their eggs, they're overcome with insecurity. They like their lives, but they dreamed of more. The family that dreamed of a future that always seemed to go without saying is now in question. I remember Lisa Bonos of the Washington Post writing extensively about this very subject. I emptied the last glass of coffee. So I'm in the driver's seat. Joanna nodded. Pretty much yes, but don't drive off a cliff. Don't sleep with someone crazier than yourself. Look for a life partner, not just a bed partner. Find a stable girl who will support you, be the mother of your children. Remember, beauty fades, but a good woman will always be a good woman. As I walked to my car, I realized that Joanna had given me a lot to think about. I had really taken her words to heart and had weeded out all but the most stable women who could be a good match for my life. When I finally found the perfect woman, it was a woman that even my mother would like. A girl who... Of course, this is all a load of crap. Kelly's story. I stared at the chipped nail and silently swore as my mom handed me an aspirin to take away my headache. Mom sighed, sliding a cup of coffee toward me. Kelly, what's all this drama about? We were in her small apartment. Mom and Dad had split up after I left for college. The situation had been tense a few years before that, but in my last few years of high school, I just brushed it off. Mom bought the place with her share from the sale of our house. My dad wouldn't tell me why they split up, and my mom simply stated that it wasn't my dad's fault. I didn't probe further, but I knew Mom missed the big yard and garden, even though the small apartment had a big pool. I took a sip of coffee before answering. That asshole Richard cheated on me. I caught him in bed with someone I thought was my best friend. Mom looked puzzled. He cheated on you again? I waved my hand at her. No, it was Kevin who cheated on me before. This is a new guy I've been seeing for about a year now. Wow, my mom said, leaning back. That's the 4th guy who's cheated on you. I shook my head. I guess they all end up cheating on me except for Tony. Mom made a grimace. Tony wasn't married and didn't have kids? I sipped some more coffee. Yeah, but I didn't know that at the time. At least he wasn't cheating on me with my best friend. Only with his wife, my mom reminded me. Why are all men such assholes? I asked. Relationships are so hard. It's like a full-time job and we have to treat it like one. If your boyfriend wants to leave you, he should give you 2 weeks' notice. There should be severance pay and before they leave. Mom took a sip before answering. If you're giving your all and it's not enough, you're probably giving it to the wrong person. Mom, what are you talking about? Kelly, think for a second. What do all these cheating men you're dating have in common? They're all cheaters. Mom made a grimace. What else do they have in common? I just looked at her before she continued. Kelly, it seems like you pick boys who will be losers. Rolling my eyes, I replied, if I try to fail and succeed, what will I do? She took one of my hands. Kelly, you are a mature adult woman who is over 30 years old. You have a good job, you have both intelligence and beauty. Maybe it's time to stop playing with those bad boy kids still living in their parents' basements and start hanging out with real men. I jerked my hand away irritably. What's wrong with the guys I'm dating? Mom just stared at me. Okay, besides cheating? Mom rolled her eyes. What happened last winter when your car battery died at the mall and you called your boyfriend? He said he couldn't make it because he was playing Call of Duty with his friends. Making a face, Mom asked, and who did you call? Dad, I replied, then quickly added. But Dad was on a business trip, so he called Eric. Mom leaned back. So Eric came over in the middle of the night, in the freezing cold, to start your car. Meanwhile, your boyfriend was warm and dry, playing video games, and his girlfriend was freezing in an empty parking lot late at night. I nodded. Didn't Eric bring you a thermos of hot chocolate? Well, that was cold. I was waiting. I defended myself. Besides, I told Eric thanks. He said it was no big deal. Mom nodded. And when your toilet broke before the party and water was running all over the floor, who did you call? It was a Saturday and the plumbers wanted a fortune, so yeah, I called Eric. Because your boyfriend was? Mom asked. Okay, my boyfriend was too drunk the night before and wouldn't answer his cell phone. Well, thought Mom, at least Eric had a good time at the party. Oh wait, you didn't invite Eric to the party, did you? The man who saved the day. You sent him home, didn't you? We had too many guests as it was. Besides, I'm sure Eric already has other plans, I replied, stammering. Even to me, that answer sounded lame. Of course, Kelly, Mom said patronizingly. It's not that I haven't done anything nice for Eric. I brought him to Cousin Tina's wedding. Yeah, Mom objected. At the last minute after you broke up with Tom or John or Kevin, who dumped you for that waitress. Eric was having fun, I replied meekly. He said he didn't have anything going on anyway. Mom nodded. Yeah, on his day off with no warning. I'm sure Eric was happy to drive 2 hours to sit and listen to your grandmother and Aunt Edith prattle in his ears and dance to a really bad DJ with a bunch of people he didn't know. Okay, Mom, I get it. But Eric's just so... Eric. You hardly notice him at all. He's just kind of... around. Like a reliable cell phone or watch. Mom smirked over her coffee cup. Is that a bad thing? Think of all your male friends over the last 10 years that you've dated. Can you imagine any of those jerks changing your baby's diapers or taking your kid to art school? Oh God, Mom, please. Mom raised her coffee cup at me. Any knucklehead can tear down a barn. It takes a carpenter to build it. I'd had enough and got up to leave. Mom, I've got to go. Thanks for the coffee, but I have a million things to do, and I promised to meet Dad for an early dinner. Mom looked sadly into my eyes. Okay, Kelly, tell your dad I said hi. I nodded and kissed my mom. Mom hesitated and asked quietly, Does your dad ever ask about me? I gave a strained smile and walked out of the apartment. I thought about what my mom had said on the way to my dad's house. It actually made me angry. I had come to my mom for comfort after catching that slut with my boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend, not a lecture on the birds and the bees and time. It was so unfair. We're told we can do anything a man can do, and when we do, we're called bitches. Now we're expected to be the CEO in the boardroom, the chef in the kitchen, and then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, you only have a window to have perfect kids and a husband. Otherwise, it's the big L for loser for you. As I stopped at the longest stoplight in the city, I casually cast a glance at the park. To tease me, God played out a domestic scene in which some guy was chasing two little boys around a tree, and a woman, obviously the wife, was sitting with a large dog on a nearby bench. It looked like a Norman Rockwell-style life insurance commercial. What the hell? I thought to myself. I'll call Eric and see if we can go out this weekend. Nothing serious, just a taste. Eric deserves a treat. Next chapter. I sat in Starbucks, a cinnamon dolce light frappuccino coffee in one hand and my phone in the other. Hey Eric, it's Kelly, how are you? Kelly? Good to hear from you. Eric seemed genuinely happy to hear from me. What's wrong? Did your car battery die again? No, nothing like that, Eric. I just called to say hi and see if you wanted to hang out on Friday. Huh. That sounds great, Kelly. But we have Gina coming over on Friday. She'll be babysitting her 5-year-old nephew. We're going to take him to the fireworks show at Young at Art on Friday night. I cursed to myself. What a bitch that Gina is, but pulled myself together. Oh, that sounds great. I'm sure Gina needs to put the baby to bed afterward. Do you want to go to the club after she leaves? Eric laughed. No can do. I promised the boy that after the fireworks we'd watch a SpongeBob movie on my big screen TV. Me, Gina, and the boy will have a sleepover. I have popcorn in 4 different flavors, the whole deal. And Saturday morning we're all going to Home Depot for a kids' workshop. Lad will be building a birdhouse. Okay, Eric. Sounds like fun for everyone. I prayed the guy would hit Gina over the head with a hammer. How about picking me up Saturday night? We can swing by that new place on 23rd Avenue. Can I take a rain check, Kelly? Anna and I are going to the XYZ concert on Saturday. Really? Anna bought tickets to XYZ? They've been sold out for months. Yeah, I know, right? I've been trying to get tickets ever since I found out XYZ were playing here. They're my favorite band. Anna said she got the tickets from the company raffle. I took a sip of my coffee. I imagined what that slut Anna had done to get the tickets, but I did my sweetest voice. Oh, Eric, I'm so jealous. Tell you what, why don't we meet on Sunday for brunch and you can tell me all about the concert? Maybe later, Kelly? Sunday morning, Vicky's bringing her dog over to our place. Vicky, me, Achilles, my dog, and Vicky's dog are going to go to the dog park to play frisbee. You have a dog named Achilles? Eric laughed. Yeah, you've met him, remember? The Doberman with one standing ear? I've always wanted to name the dog Achilles. Then when we're out walking, I could say, Achilles heel. He laughed at his own joke. You don't remember my other 2 pets? The mongrel and stray cat Spoiled and Rotten? It took all my self-control not to blurt out that I barely remembered him. My God, Eric, you have a pretty good social calendar. Yeah, crazy, right? He chuckled. Until last spring, the only way I could get someone of the opposite sex to talk to me was if I had a tool in my hand to fix a clogged drain or their broken widget. It must be my new aftershave. You poor, ignorant fool, I thought, as Eric continued. Kelly, how about... It sounded like he was turning a page. Sunday night? I can cook something on the barbecue and we can watch a classic movie in 3D. I even bought glasses. Now I was furious. I wasn't going to have a dentist appointment. Eric, I don't know. Maybe you can call me on Sunday and I'll tell you. I could almost hear Eric shrug into the phone. Okay, Kelly, but why don't you call me in case I forget? Oh, sorry, there's someone on the other line. I've got to go now. I hope to see you on Sunday. Bye. I sat there staring at my phone with the call ended display. My cinnamon dolce light frappuccino coffee was long forgotten. What the hell? I said out loud, louder than I intended, drawing stares. Eric had just hung up on me. I stood up and tossed the cup into the trash can. How could Eric prefer me over these whores? I had a bigger cup size than all those bitches put together. Hell, all those trailer park whores barely had the brains to blow their nose. Next chapter. My father was quite amused by my interactions with Eric. Honey, it sounds like you're a seller in a buyer's market. We were sitting outside on the big veranda of my dad's house. His house was much bigger than Mom's and overlooked the lake where he kept his boat. Dad was grilling on a huge rig that would have been fit for any restaurant. He was still in good physical shape, and with his tan and hair the color of salt and pepper, he could have played the part of an extra in a commercial for some senior housing complex. But Dad, that's just not fair. I've known Eric forever. I have a degree, a career, and not to sound vain, but I'm kicking the ass of all these passers-by in looks. Dad laughed, sitting down. Don't forget about modesty. You're the one who told me to be modest, but not inconspicuous. Kelly, oddly enough, I understand what Eric is going through. When I moved here, I had more, female company than I had at an Oprah convention. I was out of the dating game for a long time. I don't know if the rules are different at my age or if they even exist. But the ladies here don't make a fuss or shy away from what they want. He got up to turn off the grill. My point, Kelly, is that the ladies here use the famous Roman saying, seize the day, trusting little in tomorrow. I put my glass down. You know, Dad, you're right. He interrupted me. You know how much I love hearing that. I waved him off with my napkin. So are you going to call Eric? Asked Dad, refilling my glass. You mean now? Seize the day with little confidence in tomorrow, repeated Dad with exaggerated exuberance. I rolled my eyes, pulling out my phone and dialing Eric's number. I gave Dad a thumbs up when Eric picked up the phone. Hey, Eric, it's Kelly again. Yeah, I saw your name on my display. Are you okay? I've never gotten 2 calls from you in one day before, unless something was wrong. No, everything's fine, Eric. I just wanted to let you know that we're going to the movies on Sunday. I heard Eric chuckle. That's 3D, silly. But we're going to have to reschedule. Kim found out that I had the director's cut of the 3D movies, Creature from the Black Lagoon and Godzilla vs. Bombi, and begged me to watch them. Turns out Kim is a big fan of the classic 3D genre. Dad saw the look of disbelief on my face as I took the phone away from my ear. The last thing I heard was Eric's voice. I hate to cut you off, Kelly, but I need to let the killer dogs outside so they can pee. Can you call me at the end of next week and we can try to connect? It was nice talking to you. For the second time since talking to Eric, the screen popped up, call ended. I tossed the phone on the table, muttering, well, that went well. If I was expecting sympathy from Dad, it didn't come. He laughed at the top of his voice and sat up, wiping tears from his eyes. I'm glad you're so amused, I muttered. The only movie that slut Kim likes is Monster Dance with no pants on. Daddy stood up and kissed the top of my head. I'm sorry, honey, but I don't think I've ever seen you get run over before, and it doesn't look like you're used to it. Damn right. Dad moved his chair over so that he was sitting across from me. If I didn't know Eric better, I'd say he got a little revenge. What are you talking about? Dad leaned back in his chair. Remember, you were a senior in high school and the lead performer in the school production of West Side Story. Yeah, so? Eric was part of the production crew and I believe he invited you to the party after the play. Maybe he did. I don't remember. Well, he certainly remembered then. The poor bastard showed up at the house with a dozen roses and Dad's old car. He must have polished that car 100 times. The damn reflection almost blinded me. I bet those roses cost him a week's pay at his minimum wage job. Ouch. Oops, that's right. And where were you? You left with that clown who played the lead, Tommy, what's his name? I cringed at the memory. Tommy brought us that nasty beer. It made me so sick. Guess who at that party turned off Tommy's car so he couldn't drive drunk and then drove your slick ass home that night? I dropped my head in my hands. Please don't tell me it was Eric. Dad nodded his head. Actually, it wasn't my proudest moment. Mom and I decided that Eric got you drunk on beer. I kicked his ass and your mom threw his roses in the trash. Eric didn't deny anything, just stood there and took all the abuse. Dad looked at the grill. I didn't find out the truth until after you both graduated. Eric never told anyone. I only found out by a strange coincidence. Wow, how I apologized to Eric back then. Do you know what he said when I asked him why he didn't tell me what happened? What? Eric stood there with a goofy smile on his face and said, No problem. Real men never complain. Real men never blame. I picked up my phone from the table. Might as well erase Eric's name from my contact list. If I were him, I wouldn't spit in my mouth even if my tongue was on fire. Dad shook his head. If it were anyone else, I'd agree with you, but not Eric. Think about why else he would have continued to help you all these years. I put my phone back in my purse. I don't know, but I'm not taking any more chances. Eric won't be ready for what I'm about to unleash on him. Dad raised his glass to me. Chance favors the prepared man, or woman, it seems. It was another week before I got on Eric's damn calendar. It was a Friday night car show, not the event I would have chosen. Seriously, who wants to waste a summer evening wandering around a parking lot littered with old wrecks? I was surprised when Eric showed up and walked me to his car. Eric, my God. Is that a Lincoln? Of course, Eric replied proudly, patting the gleaming fender. Lincoln Continental Mark IV, this one was built in 1973. I felt a twitch. My grandfather, or Shonather, had the exact same car. Eric smiled broadly as he opened the passenger door. What a coincidence, since it's your grandfather's car. I was stunned. He must be kidding me. No, really? Seriously, it's my Shonatar's car. Of course, Eric replied, holding my hand as I got into the car and lowered myself into the padded front seat. Kelly, your grandfather always took impeccable care of this car. After he died, it sat in the garage like that. Your father practically gave it to me. It took a while to replace all the dried-up gaskets and stuff, but everything is original and works. Even the AM/FM radio. The familiar scent of the interior filled my nostrils, and I inhaled deeply as Eric walked around the car to get behind the wheel. I don't know if I imagined it or not, but the bouquet of smells brought me back to the happiest days of my childhood. My Shonather and I were walking to get ice cream, and I felt Shonather's presence as surely as if he were sitting next to me. Eric settled in as the driver. He had a cat that ate the canary expression on his face. Suddenly, he reached across the driver's seat and opened the glove box. He pointed to the inside glove compartment door. There, in childish scribbles of my young hand, was written in uncertain letters, Kelly plus Sienather forever, surrounded by a large heart. One thought flashed through my mind. Eric was the man I was going to marry, bear him children, and then grow old together. The car show was a lot of fun. Although I only recognized a few cars from my teenage years, the atmosphere was great with a DJ playing old tunes, kids trying to use hula hoops and a bunch of food carts. Shonather's car, Eric's car, was getting a lot of attention. Eric was casually chatting with everyone, and even the kids in their imported rice rocket cars came up to him with questions. At the end of the night of the car show, my campaign to get Eric to propose to me began. It took about 9 months before he asked for my hand in marriage. It would have happened sooner, but it took over a month to chase all the other hotties off his calendar. How did I convince Eric that I was the one for him? Easy. I showed him what great partners we would be together, our potential as parents, the common interest that brought us together, the fact that we were true soulmates, and of course, it's all bullshit. I was giving Eric what every guy wants. Eric, like most single guys, was limited to 4 main food groups: microwave, cereal boxes, pizza, and Chinese takeout. While, of course, the best I could do in the kitchen was make restaurant reservations using my phone, I could find enough ingredients to keep Eric's stomach full. Eric wasn't the worst lover I'd ever had in my life. Eric continues the story. Wow, is all I can say. I really enjoyed being married. Kelly was wonderful. Even the cat liked her. We had the usual minor disagreements, like my choice of decor versus hers, but once I saw what she did to the house, I quickly sent my lonely memorabilia to the garage to make a traditional man cave. We both loved to laugh, and comedy clubs and concerts along with local theaters became our date nights. As we all know, when the gods want to make us cry, they make us laugh first because everything was good until it was bad. We had just gotten out of the doctor's office. After a year of trying to have a baby, we decided to get tested. My swimmers were fine in both quantity and quality. Unfortunately, the problem was Kelly's. I can't spell half of the medical jargon, but basically, I had a better chance of getting pregnant than Kelly. All existing methods involving Kelly had such a low chance that the odds were non-zero, meaning above 0%, but not by much. Unless three wise men with gifts come from the East, we would have to go the expensive route of surrogate or adoption. I was fine with both, and I was willing to mortgage, sell everything I owned, or borrow. Kelly was stunned and said she needed time. That, I think, was the beginning of the end. Next chapter. Kelly fell into a despondency that turned into a deep depression. She even quit her job. It took the intervention of her parents and I to get her into treatment. They tried different medications, but the ones that worked made her gain weight, which made her even more withdrawn. Kelly had to make a huge effort to go anywhere. Every time she saw a child or family, she nearly burst into tears. I was at a loss as to how to help her. My attempts at humor, think of all the money we'll save on birth control, had the opposite effect. After about 2 years of this behavior, I was ready to get depressed. And then a miracle happened. Kelly's therapist picked the right combination of medications, and combined with Kelly's sessions, I gradually climbed out of my shell. Although I was glad to have my wife back, the old life didn't happen. Kelly refused to discuss any options for our family, and I simply dropped the subject. It seemed like we were no longer getting along and just existing together. Even when we were physically near each other, like eating breakfast, Kelly acted as if I wasn't there, scrolling through her smartphone or going through papers from her new job as office manager. I felt invisible, like she was looking past me. Kelly didn't want to go to comedy clubs anymore, but when she showed interest in our local theater, I bought season tickets. We went to every new show and some shows she went to multiple times, bringing her mom if I wasn't home. I felt like I was seeing a little light at the end of a long, dark tunnel. Of course, fate decided it was an oncoming train. Next chapter. Joanna popped up from behind the cash register at the store when I walked up to pay for my Monday morning coffee. Eric, come with me now, said Joanna, grabbing my hand and pulling us out the back door. Stop, Joanna, I'm going to spill my coffee, I exclaimed as her iron grip pulled me outside. Joanna lowered her hand to light a cigarette and took a drag as the door closed behind us. Eric, your wife is cheating on you, Joanna spat, exhaling a trickle of smoke through her nose. I brushed the smoke off her face. You're insane, I replied as Joanna took another puff. You must have mistaken Kelly for someone else. I mean, you see 100 people a day. Joanna put her hands on her hips. I was at your damn wedding. I know what your wife looks like, and I know damn well what a cheating bitch looks like. A doubt crept into my mind. Joanna, it's a very serious thing to accuse someone. Are you 110% sure? Joanna interrupted me. I'd like to be wrong, but Kelly was here with that asshole from the theater. Tommy, what's his name? They were here together yesterday. My head was spinning. Yesterday, I'd been at her father's apartment all day installing an electric water heater for him. How could that be possible? It can't be, Joanna. You must be mistaken. Kelly is like a lot of people. Joanna threw down her cigarette and crushed the butt with the heel of her shoe. Oh yeah, Eric? How many women who look like Kelly let their lovers drive their husband's classic 1973 Mark IV Lincoln Continental? What? Kelly's history. What? Exclaimed Mom, setting down her coffee cup. It's no big deal, Mom. Eric doesn't know, does he? Said I. Besides, if Eric did recognize Tommy, he'd really like him. They look a lot alike. Mom shook her head. Do you really think Eric has less morals than God gave the lint for the dryer? Do they look alike? Jesus, my child, are you out of your mind? Does Eric sleep with married women too? No, Mom, but my marriage was in bad shape. Kelly, infidelity doesn't make bad marriages better. It makes marriages worse, much worse, like divorce in the end. But Mom, I'm not ending my marriage. I'm just not getting as much use out of it right now. Mom pulled her coffee cup toward her. If you're not ending your marriage, then your actions suggest that things aren't so bad. You're getting something out of this arrangement. I've been through a lot. Why am I not entitled to something? Kelly, cheating is a crappy set of decisions based on entitlement. Mom, you just don't get it. Mom stood up, walked around the table, and took me by the shoulders with both hands. Honey, yes, I do understand, she said, squeezing my shoulders. I fooled your father once. Just a stupid couple of dates with, well, whatever with. Mom sat up and wiped tears from her eyes. You were in high school, and for some reason I figured a little fling couldn't hurt. Your father found out about it and left me. I convinced your father to stay until you graduated. I thought I could get him back in 2 years. You changed, Dad? Said I, recoiling from her. Mom tensed up. Yes, and as soon as you left for college, your dad moved out and filed for divorce. Now I tensed up. That's not going to happen to me and Eric. He'll never know, and I'll never hurt him, even unintentionally, unlike what you did to Dad. Mom shook her head. Hurt him unintentionally? Cheating is as deliberate as a NATO airstrike. I got up to leave. Tommy works with me. Eric never comes to work with me, so how could he know? Mentally, I cursed myself for letting Tommy talk me into taking a ride in the Lincoln yesterday. I swore that mistake wouldn't happen again. Mom continued to shake her head. Having fun with a buddy at work? How corny is that? I picked up my purse. I don't know, Mom. How cliche, CD was your buddy? Mom acted like I'd slapped her in the face. Look, Mom, that's not what I meant. It's just a part-time job for Tommy. He's an actor. Tommy's done real estate commercials before, and he has a script for a play. We're both just creating memories to reminisce about in the future. That's it, nothing more. Mom circled her hand around her small condominium as I headed for the door. Look around you, Kelly, because when Eric finds out, sitting in a small apartment with a bottle of wine is your future. Next chapter. And I don't know if I was more shocked or pissed off as I drove away from my mom's house. Shocked is putting it mildly to describe my feelings about her revelation that she had cheated on Dad. It was a betrayal, plain and simple, and it really pissed me off that she had hurt Daddy. It also pissed me off that my mom never took my side in any relationship problems. Who was she to judge? My little, affair was different from the one she had with Dad. I remember reading a survey done by Illicit Encounters, a British extramarital dating site. They surveyed 2,000 users and found that 73% of the women who admitted to having affairs had mothers who also had affairs. It was partly her fault, plus it was my mom who kept talking about Eric and pushing me toward him. And yet there was a voice in the back of my brain that I couldn't chase away, and that whispered, "The apple doesn't fall far from the wrong apple." I turned on the radio to drown out that voice and reminded myself that Eric would never find out, so it was okay. Eric's story. I was shocked at what Joanna had said and headed home, leaving all thoughts of work behind. Reaching the garage, I took a deep breath and opened the front door of the Lincoln. Poking my head inside, I immediately noticed that the driver's seat was out of place. The seat had been pushed far back for a driver with much longer legs than me. Even without that clue, I realized that what Joanna had told me about Kelly having fun with another guy was true. The cabin smelled. Just as I was about to close the door, something caught my eye. A cheap red Bic cigarette lighter peeked out from under one of the back seat cushions. Neither Kelly nor I smoke. I pulled the lighter out from under the cushion, closed the car door, and sat on the garage floor, leaning my back against the front fender. For the next few days, I avoided Kelly until I got a grip on myself. It was easy because we were just coexisting now. There would be no counseling, no drawn-out drama, no cameras, hidden recorders, private investigators, and the like. For me, it was like peeling off a Band-Aid quickly and cleanly. It was taking out the trash without looking back. Joanna let me borrow her truck and trailer. On Friday, after Kelly left for work, I loaded all her stuff into boxes and bags and put them in the storage unit. I had already had time to cancel the bills and separate the finances, so I went to her work to end the marriage. By the time I entered Kelly's reception area, it was late in the evening. The security guards were trying to escort some guy out of the lobby. "You bitch Talon!" yelled a man holding a large box, accompanied by two guards. "Fire me, you whore!" He shook off the arm of one of the guards. "Let's go," one of the guards pleaded. "The subway police are on their way. You must vacate the premises before they arrive, or you will be taken to jail." "Screw you!" shouted the man, swinging open the front door. "All you assholes are going to pay. I don't care how many lawyers you idiots have." Taking advantage of the fact that everyone was focused on the spectacle, I slipped past the receptionist's desk. I didn't want to do this in the lobby. Halfway down the hallway, I stopped an older man in janitor's clothes, speaking a foreign language in a butthurt voice. "Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me where Kelly's office, the office manager's office, is located?" I asked. Before he could answer, a female employee in a business suit walked by. The woman appraised my jeans and work shirt with a disdainful expression and turned to the maintenance worker. "This is America. We would appreciate it if you would speak the language or return to your country." The old man didn't miss a beat. "I speak the Apache language, and it is the native language of America. So listen, you tight-ass immigrant. Why don't you go back to your country if you can't speak the language?" Turning to me, he continued. "Kelly's office is on the second floor, right off the balcony, about the fourth door from the CEO's office." "Thank you," I said, heading up the stairs and leaving the lady standing there with her mouth open. Next chapter. The door to Kelly's office was closed, but I entered without knocking. What was she going to do, trick me? Surprise, surprise, Tommy was in the office, sitting on the inside corner of her desk, leaning forward. Kelly was sitting in her chair as close as she could get. Tommy jumped up quickly, and Kelly leaned back. "Eric," said Kelly, clearly embarrassed. "What a surprise. You remember Tommy from your high school days, don't you?" Tommy waved his hand half-heartedly. "Tommy?" "Yes?" I asked. "You were in West Side Story, right?" Tommy glared. "You remember my performance. I was something even back then." "Not really," I shrugged. "I just remember you couldn't hold your beer." A shocked expression appeared on Tommy's face. Kelly jumped up. "Tommy works here, in the mailroom." Tommy waved his hand. "It's temporary. I've been here for a couple months. I'm actually an actor just waiting for feedback on a play I wrote. I'm also doing some television. You've probably seen me in the red real estate commercials." "No, not really," I replied. "Oh." Tommy was shocked. "Kelly said you guys have season tickets to the theater where I perform. You must really like my work." I nodded toward Kelly. "Well, Kelly is a big fan of grown men putting on makeup and acting in plays. Me? Not so much." Tommy and Kelly exchanged glances before he spoke. "Well, thanks for supporting the arts. If you need anything, just ask." "Really, Tommy?" I said. "I'd ask you not to entertain my wife, Kelly, but it's too late for that." "Eric!" hissed Kelly, jumping up from her chair. I ignored her. "You got a cigarette, Tommy?" I pointed to his nicotine-stained thumb and forefinger. "What?" Tommy was confused. Yeah, sure, he stammered, digging in his front pocket looking for a crumpled pack of cigarettes. I tossed his cheap red lighter onto Kelly's desk. Here's one of your lighters. Must have fallen out when you entertained Kelly in her grandfather's car on Sunday. Eric, screamed Kelly. Stop this right now. Tommy's just a friend. I pulled out my smartphone. Give me a break, Kelly. I have footage from the surveillance camera installed in the garage of the two of you having fun in Shaunater's car. I'm sure he'd be proud that his favorite car is being used by his granddaughter as a bed to ruin her marriage. Glad I taped up the upholstery. Actually, the security cameras were still in the box on my bench. I was too lazy to install them, but I was willing to bet Kelly didn't know about it. Tommy and Kelly exchanged glances again. Kelly walked around the table and headed toward me, but I held out my hand to stop her. Eric, you have to believe that I never meant to hurt you. I interrupted her. Your intentions don't matter. You knew full well that cheating would hurt me. That's why you kept it a secret. You didn't intend to hurt me? Well, then you weren't trying to keep me from harm either. Tommy looked uncomfortable. I better go. I turned to him. No need to make an exit, boy who believes. I pulled an envelope out of the bag and tossed it on the table. Kelly's going to need a place to sleep. Here's the key to the storage unit where all her shit is kept, and the paperwork for 6 months' rent. Tommy shook his head. No way, dude. I'm already living in my mom's basement, so... Kelly looked stunned. Storage, what? Wait, no, Eric. Wait, listen. Mistakes were made. Not by me, Kelly. All mistakes are being corrected on my part right now. You have credit cards and money. If you don't want to sleep with Tommy Boy in Mom's laundry room, just go find a place of your own. I could see that Kelly was still in shock. Eric, that's not a deal breaker until you know there's no problem. Are you out of your mind, Kelly? You didn't think about my welfare. You were staggeringly selfish. You risked my health. All because you wanted a little weirdness. You didn't think I'd find out, and you thought it was a good compromise all along. I took one last shot. And it's a good thing you don't have kids, Kelly, so you can't ruin their home life. Kelly stammered, You bastard. You should have entertained someone else so you could have a disease. I shook my head. Are you that stupid, Kelly? Tommy puffed up his chest and pointed at me. I'm not the one who can't satisfy his wife. He looked at Kelly. What? I never said we had an exclusive relationship. Come on, Kelly. You've seen what ladies are like backstage. Ladies? Kelly got angry. A bunch of fat housewives and ancient first wives. She threw a cheap lighter at Tommy. I turned to leave. Welcome to the First Wives Club, Kelly. You and Basement Boy deserve each other. Since you work at a law firm, you can file divorce papers. Kelly's face was almost beet red. You guys are both assholes. I wagged my finger at her, heading out the door. Next chapter. And I was standing at the stairs to the second-floor balcony, trying to calm myself down when I heard gunshots. As I leaned over the railing, I saw a guy with a pump-action shotgun shoot through the ceiling. 2 guards were lying on the floor next to him. Amidst the screams, I heard him yell, Here I am, bitch, Talon! I want to discuss your package deal right now. Heads peered out of the office. The old janitor I was talking to was pushing his cart toward the stairs at breakneck speed, shouting, Active shooter! Active shooter! Get to safety! Go to the safe room on the 5th floor immediately! The old janitor reached the top of the stairs just as the gunman began to climb the stairs. The old man pushed the entire cleaning cart down the stairs. The mass of mops, buckets, and bottles of cleaning supplies hit the gunman right in the chest as he tumbled down the stairs, knocking him to the ground. The janitor looked at me and pointed to a large copy machine. Move that thing to the stairs. We have to block it. I froze in place and couldn't move as the janitor ran to the elevator and slid a key into a slot from a bunch on his belt. He rushed past me. Come on, kid, let's go. That'll disable the elevator, but we still have to block the stairs. My body simply refused to react, and the old man ignored me, unhooking the massive copier and pushing it toward the stairs, ignoring the gunshots. I was now joined by Kelly, Tommy, and about 6 other women, including the one who had told off the cleaning lady for talking to Apache. We stood wide-eyed and watched what was happening as if it were a reality show. As shots rang out in the copy machine, the janitor taunted the shooters. "Hey, you shooting blanks? Looks like you need a bigger gun." Then the crazy bastard started throwing potted plants in the direction of the shooters. The old man looked at me and hissed, "I can't hold him back much longer. Move your ass and lead these people to the woman's shack around the corner." I was still in a trance until Kelly tugged on my arm. "Let's go, Eric." Next chapter. We were cowering in the women's restroom like a herd of sheep when the janitor came in. He turned off the lights, and it took a minute for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. The man pointed to half a dozen women. "Get in the last stall, farthest from the door. Stand behind the china as far as you can." He turned to Tommy and me. "Move the couch in front of the stall wall. That will help block any pellets that get in. Hopefully, we can sit this one out until the cavalry arrives. We should keep quiet and hope he doesn't find us." He locked the door. "Anyone keeping an eye on that asshole gunfighter?" I raised my hand like I was in 3rd grade. "He was wearing something that looked like a black life jacket," I said. The old man nodded. "An armored vest." He turned to the group of women huddled in the last stall. "You," he pointed to Kelly. "Give me your bra. Now." Tommy was still looking around in panic. "You're going to listen to that old pervert." "Shut up, Tommy," I said, pointing to a tattoo on the inside of the old man's forearm that resembled the Budweiser eagle and a beer logo, only his tattoo had an eagle and a trident with an anchor on it. This guy knows his shit. As the man tore open the cups and then clenched one cup in his fist and punched the mirror above the sink. He picked out a long, jagged piece, wrapping the end of it in one of Kelly's bra cups and handing it to me. "I bet our shooter has a less expensive ballistic vest. Ballistic armor dissipates the kinetic energy of a projectile, such as a bullet, through a network of fibers like Kevlar, much like a soccer ball hits a goal net at speed. It won't stop a knife or a punch." "What if he doesn't have a cheap bulletproof vest?" shouted Tommy, almost panicked. "Calm down," said the man, trying to hold out a bra-wrapped spike to Tommy. "Then we'll go for the face. There's enough of us here, and if we pile on all at once, we'll have a chance." "To hell with that," said Tommy, dodging the jagged piece of glass held out in front of him. "I'm not going to sacrifice myself for a bunch of selfish sissies. These bitches wanted equal rights. Let them fight." He began to squeeze his way through the small crowd crammed into the last stall. The old man grabbed Tommy by the hair on the back of his neck and pulled him back. Tommy spun in place. The old man kicked him under his kneecap, and Tommy fell to the ground. "You want to die on your knees instead of fighting on your feet like a man? That's your choice, but you're not going to hide behind a bunch of skirts to save your hide." Tommy scurried off to the far corner as the boy let go of his hair. The man turned to me. "What about you? Fight or flight?" I was so scared my teeth were chattering. "I think I'll pee my pants, but I'll stay on my feet." "Look, that door won't hold a damn thing. The shooter's got a pump-action shotgun, looks like a 12-gauge, which would easily put a hole in the door, but the tiles on either side of the door should give us protection from the buckshot." He walked over to the wall next to the door. "The door opens outward, so even this cheap door will be hard to kick in. I bet he'll shoot the lock off and then pull the door on himself. Like most guys, he'll open the door with his dominant hand, which is also his gun hand." He pantomimed the action. For a moment, the shotgun will be in his other hand. That means his hand will be holding the door, not the trigger. With the lights off, he'll be staring into the darkness and won't be able to see. That's when we'll strike. He turned to me. "You'll be up high and I'll be down low." He pointed at the woman. "You pile on. Don't stop for any reason. The adrenaline will dull any pain. Don't be afraid to hit me, because stitches are better than a coffin." At that moment, we heard another shotgun blast. "Come on out, bitch Talon. Bring your goddamn law textbook and your Ivy League diploma." The old man pushed me back against the wall next to the door. He crouched with the lady behind him on the other side of the door, below tile level. I mimicked his pose. My bladder was ready to burst. The only light in the room was falling from under the door. 2 feet obscured the light, and then there was a clatter of the doorknob. "You in there, Talon bitch! Come out before I blow up your house!" The distinctive sound of a pump-action shotgun blast was followed by a loud explosion as the doorknob simply disappeared. The shrapnel hit the old man in the leg, and he was thrown backwards towards the lady. The door swung open abruptly. Just as the old man had predicted, the shotgun lay in the gunman's left hand, and his right hand rested on the edge of the door. Our eyes met, and I froze like a deer caught in the light of car headlights. The gunman's right hand moved to the trigger of the shotgun. Although my brain was at a complete standstill, some instinct compelled my body to act on its own. An inner need for survival carried me forward, toward the attack. Kelly's story. As the shotgun blast pierced the door, the woman behind me screamed and the baby began to cry. The old man who had taken the bra from me fell as if he had been hit with a baseball bat and collapsed onto the large woman behind him. The door swung open, revealing the silhouette of a man in a large black vest with a gun in his hands. I knew I was going to die, so I made the long-forgotten sign of the cross that I had been taught in my youth. Suddenly, out of nowhere, out of the darkness, Eric pounced on the gunman. He clawed at the guy, and they both collapsed to the floor. "Police! Stop! Drop your weapons! Now!" a voice shouted. Eric didn't even slow down his frantic kick at the lying figure. 2 shots rang out, and Eric was thrown off the body of the gunman, but he crawled backwards like a zombie and started hammering the body with his fists. "Stop! Hands up!" shouted one of the officers, stepping around Eric with pistols at the ready. A large woman leaned out of the door and covered Eric with her body. "Don't shoot! It's not him! He's not the shooter!" About 1 million men in police uniforms and with all manner of weapons scurried away. 3 days later. "No, Kelly," Joanna said. I was in the store where Eric got his terrible coffee every morning. I was standing over Joanna, who was kneeling and arranging packages of donuts in the display case. "God damn it, you lesbian!" I shouted at her. "You can't just break into my house and steal my animals. That's all I have of Eric." Joanna stood up and brought her face close to mine. I almost choked on her cigarette breath. "Listen, you cheating scumbag," Joanna began. 1. I didn't break down the door. Eric gave me the key. 2. This isn't your house, it's Eric's house. And 3. The fact that you left Eric's pets without food or water for 2 days shows that you can't be trusted to take care of anyone or anything Eric cares about. She waved a finger in front of my face. We all know what happens when someone trusts you with something important, like marriage vows. I took a step back. It's not my fault. You know how crazy the last few days have been? Do you know how awkward it is to barge into your own house because your husband changed the locks? Joanna took a step toward me. Is it really as bad as what Eric experienced when I told him his wife was a cheap whore? I took another step back. This is between me and Eric. You had no business prying into our marital affairs. Joanna laughed. Fine. Affairs is a word that suits you. I think your marriage stopped being between you and Eric when you started having fun with other men. I strained my back. It was just one guy, and I was in a bad place at the time. In a bad position, Kelly? I clenched my fists. Damn it, Joanna, you don't know shit! I felt my blood pressure rising. Do you have any idea how hard this is for me? Joanna grinned. To quote actor John Wayne, life is hard, but it's even harder when you're stupid. At that moment, the chimes above the store door rang out, and 2 police officers entered the store. Hey, Joanna, do you have a dark roast? Joanna waved her hand toward a pile of coffee cans. Sure, Derek. The last pot of coffee is fresh and just the way you like it. I lowered my voice. Give me my animals back or I swear to God the cops will haul your ass to jail. Joanna smiled widely. Really? You want the cops? She waved at the two police officers filling coffee mugs and said loudly, Derek, Pete, would you please come over here and kick this whore out of my store? A larger officer approached. What's the problem, Joanna? Joanna pointed at me. That whore wants to show tricks in front of my store. You can get rid of her and make sure she stays away. I don't want her bothering my customers with any more solicitations. The officer put his hand on the handcuffs. I need you to leave immediately and don't come back. Do you understand? I was about to protest, but I saw the look on his face. I turned to see that damn bull-dyke Joanna. This isn't over, hissed I. Joanna dismissed me with a wave of her hand. Yes, it's over, bitch, just like your marriage is over. Eric, you're going to have to let her come in to see us in a little while, the nurse told me as she changed the IV bag. It had been a week since I'd had my trachea and urinal removed, so at least I could eat what was considered food in the hospital. I wasn't a big fan of the recliner, but the maze of tubes around and inside me ruled out going to the can. Thank you, Florence Nightingale, but I prefer not to be reminded what an ass I was and why I am in your tender care. My nurse shook her head. Too bad the first thing you asked for after surgery was to ban your wife from the room. She sits in the waiting room every day. I know she's hoping you'll call and let her come in. I tried to get comfortable, which was no easy task. Yeah? Well, I lie on that damn bed every day too. At least she can get up and pee in the bathroom or see her boyfriend or have her boyfriend pee on her. Either way, keep her away from me. The nurse checked the other IV. It's just the drugs talking. I know what a good guy you are. Let me give you a hypothetical situation where you talk to her for just a second. How about this? What if there were no hypothetical questions? At that moment, there was a knock on the door, and a janitor from the set entered. He was assisted by a young, slender woman of about 25 with long, straight black hair. High cheekbones and other common facial features made them look related. The girl helped him into a chair as the nurse left. He had a brace on one leg and a bandage with many bandages over one eye. How are you feeling, Eric? I raised my hand with a web of tubes. Like Spider-Man, without the superpowers. He grinned. I spent 2 business trips running around the jungle with Greenface and didn't get a scratch. And now, in my golden years, a door is kicking my ass. The man turned to the girl. Eric, this is my granddaughter Starlight. They won't let me drive in this condition, so she's my chauffeur for now. I waved my hand at the attractive girl and turned to the older guy in the chair. I'm embarrassed, but I don't even know your name. Tonto, he said. Really? Like Tonto from Kemosabe's The Lone Ranger? I asked. Yeah, Tonto, he laughed. Starlight tapped him on the shoulder. That's not his real name. Tonto smirked. Okay, but I got that name Tam, and it stuck. No one ever forgets it. He turned to his granddaughter. Starlight, dear, please go to the vending machine downstairs and get your old grandfather a big cup of coffee. Extra sugar. Starlight kissed Tonto. Sure, Grandpa, but you're not old. You'll live forever. I watched her slender figure walk out the door. Tonto caught my gaze. I'm sorry, I said, embarrassed. Tonto waved his hand. Well, at least I know you're not gay. Now, Eric, between us men, what's your 5-year plan? 5 years? I don't even know what's going to happen in 5 hours. My life right now feels like a test I didn't prepare for. How big a family do you want? Tonto, are you asking for a date? The old man laughed. No, but hopefully she will be. He pointed to the door Starlight had just come out of. She just got out of a failed relationship. Old Grandpa had to remind her boyfriend that I've killed people I didn't even know, and I'm not going to lose sleep adding it to my tab. I advised him to leave that part of the country and never come back as I have 25 acres of land with a backhoe and no one will ever find his body. Tonto, remind him not to date your granddaughter. He slapped himself on the leg. Just the opposite, Eric, my boy. I want Starlight to be with a real man. A guy who will support his woman and let her support him. I see such a man in you. I shook my head. Tonto, I wet my pants when that guy with the gun opened the door. Tonto shrugged. All battles are fought by scared people who would rather be somewhere else. On my first assignment, I would have had to change my underwear twice if I had it on. He pointed at me. When it was time to step forward, you did. That's all that matters, and it counts for a lot. Courage is when you're scared to death, but you get in the saddle anyway. I tried to find a graceful way out of the situation. Your granddaughter hardly knows I exist. Tonto tapped his finger on his head. Leave it to me. Kelly's history. Tommy, stop calling me! I was almost yelling into the phone. The people in the hospital waiting room were staring at me, so I got up and walked out into the parking lot. Sure, Kelly, but have you thought about what I said? Tommy, the only time I think about you is how I wish we had never contacted each other and how I wish you were dead. Whatever, Kelly, but it's a big opportunity. A movie about what happened to us could be my big break, but we have to strike now while the iron is hot. Tommy, I'm hanging up. Don't call this number again or I'll stab you myself. I need to keep this line free in case Eric calls. I didn't hear a no in that sentence, Kelly. No, no, no. Is that clear enough? Wait. The producers have several storylines we can go with. For example, if Eric realizes how strong our bond with each other is and gives us his blessing in the hospital before he dies. Eric won't die! I yelled into the phone. Won't die? Damn, okay. Then we have another storyline where I go to therapy with you guys and help heal the pain. You guys are so grateful you named your first child after me. It's just bait for the girls. You're an asshole. You know I can't have kids. Kelly, it's a movie. You can have an elf if you want. Otherwise, we'll have you adopt some foreign child from a third world country where all the Hollywood public takes jobs for foreigners from. As a dramatization of this story, you can adopt a puppy or a pony and name it after me. Later, the pony will grow up and win the Kentucky Derby. You ass, ponies don't grow into horses. Really, Kelly? Okay, we'll fix that in the script. I put my hand on my forehead, feeling my head start to hurt. For the millionth time, I cursed myself for even talking to this man, let alone having fun with him. Tommy wasn't worthy of wearing Eric's socks. Tommy, please, just go away. Kelly, we have tons of other story ideas in every genre, but they really need you to sign on to get some traction. How about it turns out that Eric is actually a robot from the future coming to the present to save you and me? I pressed the end call button and put my phone back in my purse. Eric's story. Tonto and Starlight became daily residents of my hospital room. Tonto made no secret of his desires, and after a while both Starlight and I became more and more amused by his attempts. Finally, Starlight stood up. Eric, my grandfather will never let up, so we can set a date to go out at least once. Okay, Starlight, I said, but you'll have to drive on the first date. Tonto leaned back in his chair with a smile on his face. My work here is done. As he got up to leave, there was another knock on the door, and the middle-aged lady who had been on the set with us walked in. Tonto, Starlight, and the lady greeted each other warmly. I felt like a stranger in my own room. Tonto started the introductions. Eric, this is Allie. She's the CEO of Talon and granddaughter of the founder. He rubbed her shoulder. A woman with balls of brass like her brains. Remembering her sitting against the wall with a shard of glass clutched in her hand, I had no doubt Tonto's description was accurate. Allie squeezed my finger warmly. I and everyone at the firm owe you a debt we can never repay. I hope you will accept compensation from both us and the city, but I will not insult your sacrifice by offering only money for what you have done and endured. Tonto interrupted. You can insult my sacrifice by offering me only money. Allie waved her hand at him. Hush, Tonto. Everyone knows you have more money than King Midas. Starlight added, You're only working because Grandma was going to poison your coffee if you didn't quit and stop bugging her. Damn women, Tonto grumbled. A man has to have a purpose to get up in the morning. Starlight rolled her eyes. You get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every damn day. Old habits die hard, Tonto hummed. Allie shook her head. Eric, I know the circumstances under which you came to our office, and I'm sorry that there has been so much grief and suffering in your married life. However, I cannot express how glad I am that you ended up here, whatever the reason. She pointed at Tonto. We both owe you our lives, as well as my granddaughter. I felt myself blush. As far as I'm concerned, Allie, I owe my life to you, so let's consider us even. Allie shook her head again. That's hardly a fair exchange, Eric. The firm is willing to do anything to make you whole. I wondered for a moment. Does your firm have a family law department that can handle divorce? Kelly's history. It had been 8 months since the divorce was finalized. I had fallen back into a deep depression, and only in the last 3 months had I realized my act and its consequences. Today, I stood at a crossroads, but it was something I had to do, as I had learned that tomorrow hopes we learned something from yesterday, so I had to talk to Eric. I knew where to find him, which is why I found myself at Friday's car show, standing a few seats away from him and my Shonathere car. Taking a deep breath, I walked over and tapped Eric on the shoulder. Eric turned around and our eyes met. I was ready for hate, disgust, indifference, but I should have known Eric was too nice a guy. Hey, Kelly, said Eric with a wide smile. How are you doing? I didn't detect any sarcasm or indifference. Eric was almost happy to see me. Dare I hope so? I knew what I should do, but I procrastinated, saying instead, Eric, I'm doing well. I see your movie is already on Netflix. Eric laughed. How I missed that sound. I heard that, Kelly. It was just a small indie production, but I had a lot of fun on set. The performer in the lead role was really cool. I nodded. He had your mannerisms down perfectly. Eric laughed again. Of course, except for the fact that he was a foot taller, had better hair, and a body built like a Greek god. We could almost be twins. He struck a pose. Have you seen my occasional appearance? I was an Uber driver. I even had a line. Have a good day, sir, was my main speech. I felt better just being in Eric's company. Oh, it wasn't that bad. Eric smiled his goofy smile. What was your favorite part? When my character made a powder bomb out of charcoal cigarette filters and dried poop to blow a hole in the wall so everyone could escape? Or when I used the ninja skills my grandfather taught me to scale a wall, disarm a gang of terrorists while holding a puppy, and then bring a shot orphan boy back from the dead with a heart massage using his car keys? Eric's humor was infectious, and I found myself laughing along with him. Well, at least you got the girl. Girls, Eric corrected me. He turned a little more serious. I'm sorry your temper was so harsh. I felt better than I had in a long time and joined in the self-injury. Harsh, Eric? They just made me mean. All the actress who played me was missing was horns, a tail, and a pitchfork. Eric shook his head. The entertainment department of the law firm that handled the contract told me that the movie was a hit in Asia. It ranks as the 19th most illegally downloaded movie in China. Well, that's something, I said, laughing. There was a pause while I took a deep breath. Eric, I need to ask you something. Shoot Kelly, Eric said, then wrinkled his nose. Sorry, bad choice of words. I managed a weak smile. Eric, ever since the shooting, I've been living on disability and the money from our divorce. I can't go back to work at the law firm. Everyone acts like I'm some cartoon villain who betrayed Batman. I hate what happened between us. I don't know what kind of person it was. I took another deep breath. But through therapy, I realized that I need to forgive myself. I need you to see me for who I really am. At that moment, a slender, dark-haired woman with obvious signs of pregnancy walked over to us and hugged Eric. Eric pointed at me. Oh, Kelly, I'm sorry, this is my wife, Starlight. Our gazes met. There was defiance in both eyes. Starlight's eyes narrowed. I heard what you said. She squeezed Eric tighter. It's all bullshit. You don't hate the affair as much as you hate the aftermath. And telling the world you've forgiven yourself is grotesque narcissism that has nothing to do with the people you hurt, like Eric. Perhaps it makes God sharpen his lightning bolts on your arrogance. Starlight's voice lowered to a baritone. Hey, you oaf. I believe it is I, the Almighty, who is handing out forgiveness here. Who made you God? Starlight turned to Eric. I can't believe you and my grandfather almost died trying to defend that smug, delusional excuse of a human being. You should have used her as a human shield. I was stunned into silence. Nothing could have prepared me for the words of this little firebrand. It wasn't like this when we practiced therapy. Eric broke the tension. Put away the mama bear clause, Starlight. I'm sure Kelly meant no harm. I forced myself to smile. Ah, okay. Well, I should get going. Thanks for talking to me, Eric. Good luck to you both with the baby. As I walked away, I knew Eric had found the woman who should have been standing shoulder to shoulder with him the day the gunman opened that door. Next chapter. I dropped my car keys in the bowl as I walked through the door. Kelly, how'd it go? Did you talk to Eric? Mom called out from the kitchen. I sat down at the table. Yes, I talked to Eric as well as his wife. Eric is married? Mom asked. Yes, and they're having a baby. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kelly, replied Mom, coming out of the kitchen with a bottle of wine. Mom set 2 glasses on the table. Have you talked to your dad about moving out? I'd lived with my mom since the divorce, but her apartment was small for 2 people. Dad took what I'd done with Eric and the divorce very hard. Eric was like the son he always wanted for him. Yeah, I talked to Dad, I said, pouring a glass. Dad said the same thing. He loves me and will pay the first 3 months' rent plus the security deposit. I took a deep sip. But Dad feels uncomfortable having someone who cheated on him living in his apartment. Mom poured herself a glass. Well, that's okay. We'll be living alone for now. No one knows what the future holds. As I held the wine glass in my hand and looked around the small apartment, my face reflected in the wine bottle, and I realized that I had messed up my future big time.